My father couldn't stand my unrequited love for me for 10 years, so he took a cruel approach. He drugged an old friend and sent him to my bed. When Benjamin Jameson woke up, he said coldly that he wanted to marry me. Not long after we got married, he started traveling around the world and I was not seen for 3 years. I gave birth to my daughter, Esther Jameson, and waited for him to come back. 3 years later, I heard that he had finally come back. I dropped everything I was doing and rushed to the airport to pick him up, holding my daughter. Esther excitedly reached out her hands to hug him, but he glanced at me coldly and said, "Sorry, I have mysophobia." From then on, my daughter and I had to wash our hands 3 times before touching anything, and we kept the house spotless, but he still never came back and never hugged my daughter again. Until one day, I saw a video where someone asked him, "Ben, what do you think is the happiest moment in your life?" He said lightly, "It was probably last week when I was abroad. I coaxed Jessica to sleep and then pulled Cynthia into the bathroom." The people around me burst into laughter, but I felt cold all over. Cynthia was his ex-girlfriend, the one he had never let go of, and Jessica was her daughter. It turned out that they had lived together abroad for 3 years. I was disheartened, left the divorce agreement, cancelled my identity, and went abroad with my daughter. When the nanny came back from school, Esther's eyes were swollen from crying. "Mom, don't I have a dad?" she asked sobbingly, her face full of grievance. "Dad said he would come to the parent-teacher meeting today, but when he came, he said he was Jessica's father. Mom, they all said that I was a child without a father." She burst into tears. I felt a sharp pain in my chest, and I held her in my arms, tears streaming down my face. I wanted to comfort her, but when I thought of Benjamin's indifference, the words got stuck in my throat. "I regret it." I thought after 3 years of waiting, he finally came to his senses, and was ready to come back and reunite with us. But I was wrong. He only came back because Cynthia wanted to come back. He bought the plane ticket without hesitation, arranged everything, and even sent his ex-girlfriend's daughter to the best kindergarten. The day we went to the airport to pick him up, Esther put on her most beautiful dress and nervously asked me, "Mom, will Dad like me?" I nodded. "You are Daddy's only daughter. Of course he will." But when we arrived at the airport, we saw Benjamin holding Cynthia's hand and holding a 3-year-old girl in his arms. Esther and I stood there in a daze. Benjamin barely glanced at me. "Sorry, I have to take care of Cynthia and Jessica first. You two should go home." He didn't even look at Esther, but when he looked at Jessica, his eyes were full of tenderness. I closed my eyes in despair. "I'm sorry, Esther. It's all my fault. I will attend your parent-teacher meeting next time." After washing Esther's face, I finally coaxed her to sleep, but her brows were still furrowed. "Daddy, hug me." I felt like my heart was stabbed by a knife. If that night 3 years ago hadn't happened, perhaps Esther wouldn't have to endure this. 3 years ago, my dad saw that I had a crush on Benjamin Jameson for 10 years, so he drugged him and sent him to my bed. I was shocked. "Dad, are you trying to destroy me?" He sighed. "I already knew you loved Benjamin. That guy also had feelings for you, but he just wouldn't admit it. He was drunk that night, and I even heard him shout your name. To be honest, I'm tired of you two beating around the bush. Just come to the point." I struggled hard, but the next second, an unbearable heat wave swept through my body. Dad smiled and said, "I also put drugs in your drink. Cherish tonight, okay?" And he locked the door from the outside. The next day, Benjamin woke up and said coldly, "Jocelyn Stevens, I will take responsibility and marry you." I thought my happy life was about to begin, but I overheard his conversation with his friends at a party. "Ben, you should be thankful. Jocelyn has a good figure, comes from a wealthy family, and most importantly, she loves you. Just settle down with her." Benjamin exhaled a puff of smoke and sneered. "I had a crush on her at first, but I didn't expect her to be so easy to deal with. I feel sick when I think about how she drugged me and raped me that night." Before I could figure out how to explain it, 2 weeks later, he got his visa and left the US. But that night, I gave birth to my daughter. I gave birth to Esther alone and waited anxiously for his return, but I found him entangled with Cynthia and her daughter. The villa was eerily quiet. I picked up my phone and was about to call Benjamin to ask him when he would be home, but the door suddenly opened. He walked in with a cold face, glanced at Esther who was sleeping, and said casually, "Jessica will come over to play tomorrow. You and Esther can go out." Noticing my confused expression, he smiled faintly and explained, "Jessica is very possessive. She can't stand other little girls calling me daddy. The anger in my heart finally exploded. I smiled bitterly. "Benjamin, do you still remember who your biological daughter is? Do you know what happened to Esther in the kindergarten today?" Benjamin frowned slightly and interrupted me. "Jocelyn Stevens, I don't need you to remind me. I'm sorry about what happened at the kindergarten today. Jessica also had a parent-teacher conference today. Cynthia and her ex-husband are divorced. She is a single mother and can't take care of anything. Besides, before I met you, I promised Cynthia that I would never let her suffer. I have married you, just as you wished, so you have no right to stop me from taking care of them. I owe it to them." After saying that, Benjamin threw down his coat and walked straight into the bathroom. The sound of running water drowned out my helpless sobs. If I had known that marrying him would be like this, I would rather die than give in that night. I looked at the newly drafted divorce agreement with a wry smile. If it weren't for Esther, I would have divorced him long ago, but considering her future pain, I decided to give the marriage another try. I didn't want her to grow up without a father. Early in the morning, Esther woke up and learned that her father had returned. She jumped out of bed excitedly. "I want to show my father the painting I just drew." Children are forgetful. Esther had forgiven Benjamin for what happened in the kindergarten yesterday. She ran downstairs happily, but as soon as she reached the living room, she saw Cynthia and Jessica. Benjamin was gently peeling an orange for Jessica. "Dad, who are they?" she asked. Benjamin frowned when he saw Esther was still at home. "Why are you still here? Where's your mother?" Esther was surprised, but she carefully held up the picture she had spent a week drawing. "Dad, this is the family portrait I drew for you. I wanted to give it to you when you get home." She was about to hand it over, but a small hand snatched it away. "What a stupid painting." Jessica stomped her foot to the ground and tore the photo in half. She put her hands on her hips, glared at my daughter arrogantly, and then pushed her away. "He's my dad. Esther, all the kids in school say you're a bastard. Who allowed you to call me dad?" When I saw Esther fall to the ground and cry, I immediately panicked. I helped her up and glared at Jessica coldly. "Apologize." Benjamin frowned, his tone full of displeasure. "Jocelyn, why are you so harsh on a child?" He held Jessica in his arms without without hesitation. I told you last night that Jessica doesn't like people calling me dad. She just feels unhappy and doesn't mean to force Esther. I stood firm, refusing to give in. Not on purpose? You saw it with your own eyes, right? Benjamin, she just said that Esther was a bastard. Tell me, is Esther really a bastard? Benjamin hesitated again and again, but still persuaded Jessica softly without apologizing, and Cynthia's eyes flashed, and she apologized with an elegant smile. Miss Stevens, I'm really sorry. Jessica grew up abroad, and her personality is more straightforward and outspoken. Please don't take it to heart. The little girl in his arms became even more arrogant after saying this. I didn't say anything wrong. All the kids in the school say so. Esther is a bastard. She stole my dad away. I clenched my fists and cast a cold gaze at Benjamin. He once said that he had mysophobia, so Esther and I endured it and tried to accommodate him. He used overtime as an excuse to get involved with other women, and I chose to turn a blind eye. Still, I couldn't stand by and watch someone call my daughter a bastard. And, let me ask you again, is Esther a bastard? Benjamin's face flashed with impatience, but he just sneered. How did she become my daughter? You know it in your heart, right? Enough. Today is the day when Jessica comes to visit. Let's not ruin the atmosphere. Cynthia and her daughter stood aside, looking proud. Benjamin held Jessica in his arms, his tone full of love. Daddy will buy you a new toy, okay? And a beautiful Elsa dress. Okay. Jessica smiled as she saw Benjamin pampering her. Watching him walk away, I trembled in my heart. Finally, after much hesitation, I said the words I had never dared to say before. Benjamin, let's get a divorce. He stopped and looked back at Jocelyn coldly. Jocelyn, do you think this is funny? If you think this will threaten me, then fine, as you wish. After saying that, he walked away without looking back. There was a flash of satisfaction in Cynthia's eyes, but she quickly concealed it and walked forward with an apologetic smile. I'm really sorry. Benjamin and I are just friends. He's just an affectionate person. He felt sad that I divorced so early and Jessica lost her father, so he cared about us extra. Please don't misunderstand and don't let this matter make you sad. She even added my contact information before she left, saying she wanted to make up for the painting Esther had damaged. Cynthia, come here. Benjamin stood beside Jessica and called her softly while holding her. Coming. Cynthia followed happily. They hadn't walked far when I heard their conversation. Benjamin, are you serious? Miss Stevens was just saying that in a fit of anger. How could you agree to a divorce so easily? Benjamin sneered. She tried everything to get this marriage. Do you think she will let it go so easily? She was too harsh on Jessica just now. This is just a small punishment for her. After a while, she will beg me to come back. I couldn't help but sneer. Benjamin, people change. The Jocelyn Stevens who once fell in love without hesitation is no longer here. Now, for my daughter, I will choose to leave you completely. Esther hid in the room, crying bitterly. Mom, my classmates all say that Dad is Jessica's father, but I never thought of taking him away from Jessica. Later that night, as she fell asleep with Benjamin's picture in her arms and I lay awake, I picked up my phone and saw that Cynthia had just updated her social media. Jessica finally got the fatherly love she lacked. No one can take away what belongs to us. Attached was a photo of the three of them hugging and smiling at the camera, looking like a happy family. I clicked the like button nonchalantly, and at that moment, a message popped up on the screen. It was a video sent by Cynthia. When I clicked on it, I saw Benjamin's handsome face, which was taken after he returned to China. Someone asked him, Ben, what do you think is the happiest moment in your life? He answered nonchalantly, probably last week when I was abroad. I put Jessica to bed and pulled Cynthia into the bathroom. His voice was tender and mixed with the teasing laughter of the people around him. I felt cold all over, and suddenly remembered another post Cynthia had made before. Since having a child, we have no time to spend together alone. We can only do this, and that secretly after Jessica falls asleep. I sat there, lost in thought, when Cynthia sent another message. Oops, my bad. I accidentally sent this message to you. By the time I realized it, I couldn't unsend it. But honestly, you should know where Benjamin's heart is, right? Back then, you used despicable means to force me to marry you, and you became Benjamin's wife. In the past 3 years abroad, he has been with me and Jessica. Jessica is not his biological daughter, but Ben treats her better than his biological father. Although we broke up, he still can't let me go. The time for us to get back together should not be far away. Miss Stevens, I know your family is very rich, and you are not short of men around you. I advise you not to ask for trouble and just withdraw on your own. After that, she posted another photo. In the middle of the photo was Jessica's bright smile, and she and Benjamin were kissing the girl's cheek at the same time. They were simply a perfect family. I smiled and replied, of course. Then I called my dad. Dad, I've made up my mind. I'm going to live abroad with Esther. We're leaving in a few days. His voice was full of surprise and excitement. Really? But I heard that Benjamin just came back, and your family is finally reunited. Does he agree? I smiled bitterly. He never wants this to happen again. That night, for the first time, I didn't stay up late waiting for my husband to come home. It was already 2 in the morning when Benjamin came back. As soon as he entered the room, he frowned and looked at the dark room. I usually turned on the light for him, but this time was an exception. Not only this time, but since then, I have never disturbed him again. For 3 whole days, I didn't say a word to Benjamin. After he sensed something was wrong, he came home one night with a gift box in his hands. Jocelyn, this is for you. There was a hint of guilt in his expression. Jessica was a little inconsiderate that day. I want to apologize to you and Esther on her behalf. As he spoke, he opened the box. Inside was an outdated necklace. He took it out and reached out. Let me help you put it on. I tactfully avoided his hand. No thanks. I saw this necklace on Cynthia's social media. She once complained about how old-fashioned and outdated it was, and even joked that she wouldn't bother to pick it up if she threw it away. I walked past Benjamin expressionlessly, picked up Esther, who was already dressed and ready to go, and drove out. Out of the corner of my eye, I saw him freeze, his eyes fixed on me for a long time. You look different today. Where are you going? Let me drive you. Benjamin sounded unusually focused. I caught a glimpse of myself in the rearview mirror, dressed in a tailored casual suit, a stark contrast to the demure dresses I used to wear when he was around. In the 3 years he was gone, I had started my own company, handled business negotiations, and even learned to fix my own plumbing. I had never needed him to survive. As for driving, oh, leave me alone. I can probably drive drive better than you now. Besides, I have something more important to do today. I have to take Esther to cancel her household registration. 3 hours later, we walked out of the government office and found Benjamin's car still parked at the door. He stood outside, staring at me with a frown. Jocelyn, what are you doing here with our daughter? He followed us, watched me carry Esther into the house, and then waited for 3 full hours. For some reason, a feeling of uneasiness came over him. I smiled and said, nothing, my ID is expired, so I came to renew it. Aren't you busy today? I heard that Cynthia is looking for a job, and she might need you. Benjamin's eyes darkened as he examined me. After a long silence, he sneered, Jocelyn, you are really extraordinary. This is the first time I have seen a wife push her husband away. Since you insist on doing this, I will do as you say. He slammed the door and the car sped off, leaving me standing there in a daze. I just couldn't understand it. I had given him what he wanted, the freedom to be with Cynthia, so why was he angry? It wasn't until his assistant called me that I finally found out. Ma'am, Mr. Jameson took all his time today just to be with you and Esther. Why did you upset him like that? Now look what happened. He got drunk and went to visit Cynthia and her daughter. His assistant had always thought we were a perfect match and had tried to get us back together. Now, seeing this, I could only smile bitterly. Thanks for telling me, but let him decide for himself. After all, I had my own plans. In 3 days, Esther and I were leaving for good. However, fate seemed to have other plans. On the day I completed Esther's transfer to another school, Jessica pushed her into the swimming pool, causing a sudden and serious medical emergency. I rushed Esther to the hospital, desperate for help, but when I arrived, I heard shocking news. Benjamin used his influence to divert the city's medical resources to treat Jessica's allergic reaction. Esther was lying on the hospital bed, her face pale and lifeless. I frantically called Benjamin and begged him to save our daughter. On the other end of the line, I heard Cynthia sobbing. Benjamin's voice sounded a little tired, but then he sneered, Jocelyn, what are you pretending to be? Esther was fine. How could she get into trouble? That day I gave up everything for you, but you pushed me away. Now that Jessica is critically ill, what kind of jealousy game are you playing? My throat was filled with a metallic taste. I was about to explain when the phone was disconnected. A busy tone sounded in my ear. An overwhelming feeling of despair completely consumed me. When I looked at Esther, I expected her to burst into tears and panic, but she gave me a calm expression that was wise beyond her years. Despite the labored breathing and the oxygen mask, she managed a brave smile. Mom, Dad doesn't really need me anymore, does he? She reached out her hand tremblingly and gently wiped the tears from my face. Mom, don't cry. Dad doesn't want me anymore, and I don't want him anymore. Finally, I had to call my father and beg him to use his connections to find a doctor who could save my daughter. He managed to pull some strings, but a top specialist from a neighboring city was rushed over. In the days that followed, Benjamin never showed up at the hospital again. However, the news praised him for mobilizing the city's medical resources to save a life. Looking at his concerned expression on the screen, my heart turned cold as ice. Ben, since you love them so much, my daughter and I will help you. On the day Esther was finally discharged from the hospital, I finally completed the household registration cancellation procedures, deleted Benjamin's contact information from my phone, broke the SIM card in half, and left the city completely with Esther.